Cholita wrestling, a battle for justice. In the past, people used the word Cholita as a bad word for indigenous women in Bolivia. It was used to tease and make fun of their traditional clothes and culture. But now, things have changed. Former President Evo Morales, the country's first indigenous president, supported and celebrated indigenous culture. Thanks to his efforts, wearing traditional clothes is now a source of pride. Cholitas, in their colorful skirts, have become heroes in their culture. Cholita wrestling is more than just fun. It carries a significant meaning. In many wrestling matches, the story starts with a man acting badly toward a woman. This reflects the big problem of violence against women in Bolivia. In the end, the Cholita fights back and wins, showing the importance of standing up against what is wrong. There are also matches between women, which further emphasize the power of women in overcoming challenges. The Cholita's victory sends a powerful message of justice and respect. This makes people feel encouraged and hopeful.
Hello everyone, welcome to English for You. I'm Mike.
I'm Chickling.
And we're back with day 2 of our look at a very interesting sport from Bolivia, Cholita wrestling. That's right, it's wrestling that is done by Cholitas, which is a word for indigenous or native women in Bolivia. So this is ladies wrestling in a South American country where I don't think ladies do sports as much as they do in other places in general, but also women wrestling is kind of an unusual thing in almost every part of the world. So the fact that these ladies do it is interesting. These are long fights, right? They can be 3 to 4 hours long. They're very entertaining. You might get a kiss from a Cholita. You might get popcorn thrown at you. And for the whole time, you will be seeing these women jumping, climbing, throwing, twisting, fighting, doing all the things that wrestlers would do. So it's clearly a big form of fun and entertainment in Bolivia for people there. But there is a whole other side to Cholita wrestling, which we're going to explore today, because Bolivia is a country where often the men and the women live very traditional lives, right? So women do the women stuff, maybe cook and clean and take care of the kids. The men do the hard work and that kind of thing. So here you have this place, but the women are wrestlers. So let's find out how that all works in a country like Bolivia. Okay, well, already the name of the sport in Bolivia, Cholita wrestling, that already carries a very interesting sort of idea or message to people. As we learn right at the beginning of the article, it says, in the past or in history, people used the word Cholita as a bad word for indigenous women in Bolivia. It was like an insulting word. You wouldn't want to be called a Cholita because this might mean you're poor, you have less education or something like that. You're not quite as good as other people who aren't Cholitas. So this was a bad word, but I guess by using it for their own sport, they're kind of taking that word back and turning it from a bad word to a good word. Very cool.
所以过去呢，人们用 Cholita 就是裘丽塔这个词来侮辱玻利维亚的原住民妇女哦。
Yeah, so back in the old days, the word Cholita was a bad word. It was used to tease and make fun of their traditional clothes and culture. So maybe Cholitas lived in the countryside. They weren't kind of cool city people. They were simple country people. And maybe the rich people in the city would laugh at them. Oh, look at your cheap clothes and you don't have money and, you know, you do things in a very old way. You're not cool and modern like us. You're such a Cholita. So that was a bad word to be used in a kind of bad way in the past. But now it says things have changed. Since the meaning of Cholita has changed, you can't really use this word to tease people anymore. It's not considered bad to be a Cholita. If someone is teasing another person, they're making fun of that person, they're kind of pointing out some of that person's problems or what's weird or different about that person. Not in a good way, not like, hey, you're different, you're special, that's interesting. No, you're different, that's bad. We don't like you because you're different from us. Kids will do this. Brothers and sisters might do this to each other. Friends can do this, but if you're doing it to hurt someone's feelings, to make them feel bad about themselves, then of course that is a terribly wrong thing to do. For example, Serena teased her brother about the bad haircut he gave himself. Ooh, he decided to cut his own hair. It doesn't look good, and now she's kind of laughing at him. She's teasing him about his ugly hairstyle.
对，所以 tease 就是戏弄或取笑，所以被取笑我们就可以被用一个 be 动词加被动嘛。So he was teased by his classmates for his unusual hairstyle. 所以 make fun of someone 其实意思差不多，就是嘲笑。所以这个词呢，以前是拿来嘲笑他们嘛，不过现在情况已经不一样了。How did it change, though?
How did it change? Good question. Well, we learned former President Evo Morales, the country's first indigenous president, supported and celebrated indigenous culture. That's
Great.
how it kind of changed.
所以玻利维亚的前总统呢 ，Evo Morales， 也就是第一位的原住民总统，他很支持并且赞扬原住民文化。
Yes, thanks to his efforts, wearing traditional clothes is now a source of pride. Evo Morales came from the indigenous community. He was also a native Indian of Bolivia, and he wanted to kind of bring his people and those kinds of people into society in a better way. So thanks to his efforts, thanks to his hard work, wearing traditional clothes is not sort of embarrassing, not something you'll get teased about like in the past. Now it is a source of pride. It is something people can be very proud of. So Cholitas in their colorful skirts have become heroes in their culture. So now they're looked at not as someone to make fun of, but as someone to look up to and to respect. Cool. And we have this word source. The source is basically where something comes from. All right, if we're talking about the history of something, if we're kind of tracing it back to its very beginning, that would be the source of something. It could be something that we can't really touch and see, like New Orleans is the source of jazz music, something that kind of changed and developed by people doing it over time. Or it can be a real thing, like where a river starts up in the mountains. That is the source of that river. And then as it goes down the hill, it gets bigger and more water joins it. It becomes a big river. But where it started, where it begins, way up there is the source. So where something comes from or where we go to find the beginning of something. Here's an example. Maria's family may not be rich, but the love they have for each other is a source of great happiness and strength for them all. So they don't have a lot of money, but they have a lot of happiness and love, and that comes from being a family.
Right， 所以 thanks to 就是多亏，那么 source 就是来源的意思。A source of pride 在我们文章中就是令人感到骄傲的事情。比如说要找到什么的来源，英文我们可以说 to find a source of something。比如说，they struggle to find a source of clean water in the desert。所以由于这一个 Evo 的努力呢，穿着传统服饰现在是令人感到很自豪的象征。身穿色彩缤纷的裙子，裘莉塔已经成为大家文化中的英雄。
All right, so next we read something we've kind of been learning in today's article. Cholita wrestling is more than just fun. We could also say it's more than just entertainment. It carries a significant meaning. So yes, it is fun. You can go there as a visitor like Chicolin and I would and just watch it as a tourist to see a good show, but it carries a significant meaning. It carries a much more important and deeper meaning or idea, especially for Bolivian women, for the Cholitas who do it or watch it. It's entertaining, but it's more than just a show. Yeah, we talked about the significant meaning of this. If something is significant, basically it's important, right? It's something you should notice. It's something that will have an effect. It's something that you should probably pay attention to and not just ignore or say, oh, that doesn't matter. No one cares about that. No, they do. It is important. It's significant, all right? Here's an example. Learning how to cook is a significant skill for becoming more independent. Yeah, if you live at home and your mom and dad or grandma or whoever is there to cook for you, well, that's great. But if you move out, you can't be eating fast food and restaurant food all the time. It's not good for you. And it's expensive. So if you want to live on your own, if you want to take care of yourself, learning to cook is an important or big or a very special part of becoming more independent. Learning how to cook, learning how to take care of your own home, making your own money to pay your bills. These are all significant parts of becoming independent, becoming an adult who can live on their own and take care of themselves.
Significant 就是重要的，有特殊意义的，所以有一个重要的，比如说影响好了。His research made a significant impact on the field of medicine，或者是 like we can say significant other，那就could be your husband, your wife，都是你的人生重要的另一半。OK， 所以裘莉塔摔角不仅仅是一种娱乐活动，它也承载着很重要的意义哦。
All right, and often the Cholita wrestling matches are presented in a way that kind of talks about problems in Bolivia, in Bolivian society. It says in many wrestling matches, the story starts with a man acting badly toward a woman. So it's the angry husband or boyfriend, and he's, hitting his wife or yelling at her or doing something mean to her. And of course, this is a problem in the real world, or as it says, this reflects the big problem of violence against women in Bolivia. So not the Cholita wrestlers, but the mothers and wives and sisters in the families in Bolivia. In many cases, but not, of course, in all cases, but too much, this kind of thing happens where women are often the victims of violence. They get hit or hurt or yelled at in their families in Bolivia. And of course, that is not a good thing to be doing. That is not fair, right, or just. And here we have this word violence. Yeah, if you're watching a wrestling match like some other fighting sports, you will probably see some violence. Violence is behavior that is intended to hurt other people physically. We might use words in a violent way, like if I swear at you and say nasty things, but generally, most of the time when we hear violence, we think of people hitting, kicking, stabbing, shooting. If you want a lot of violence, go to a war or watch a war movie. When people are shooting each other and blowing things up and whatnot, that is all violence. It is designed to hurt or even kill people, and it's not good, of course. If it's done in the sport, it might be okay under the rules, but in the real world, in the modern world, we don't like violence because people get hurt, and that's not nice. For example, peaceful protests can sometimes turn into violence if people become angry. Sad but true.
所以 reflect 就是反应的意思哦。那么名词 violence 这个是名词，这是 violence 或 violence against someone 针对谁的暴力行为，像我们家暴英文就是 domestic violence，所以比如说 domestic violence is a serious issue that affects families worldwide。所以在许多摔跤比赛之中呢，故事都是从男人对女人做出恶劣的行为开始了，所以其实也反映出玻利维亚暴力侵害妇女的严重问题哦。
So of course, in the real world, violence against women can often have terrible consequences. People get hurt, people go to jail, families get broken up. It can be a real problem in the country. But of course, in Cholita wrestling, this is sort of entertainment. This is where we can change the normal ending of the story and make it a much better ending. In the end, in the wrestling matches, in the end, the Cholita fights back and wins. So she starts beating up her husband or something like that. So she fights back and she wins, showing the importance of standing up against what is wrong. So in the same way that superheroes can sort of fight against a terrible danger and still come out in the end, making us feel powerful, I think the audience at the Cholita wrestling shows can see women in trouble like they might see in their normal life. But these women, they don't run away, they don't lie down, they don't become victims. They stand up for themselves, fight back. Good for them.
In the end 这一个片语指的就是最后，所以比如我们看一个句子好了 ，Anna spent hours studying for the history test. 那she stayed up late reviewing every detail. In the end, it all paid off. 这边的 paid off 指的就是说呢，她的这个努力有成果。It means she aced the test with the highest score in the class. 所以最终呢，这个裘莉塔反击并取得了胜利，显示了挺身而出对抗不正当行为的重要性。
All right, there's other types of matches too, not just the woman fighting it back against that evil man or something. There are also matches between women, which further emphasize the power of women in overcoming challenges. So women aren't afraid of anyone. They can go out there and put in a good fight and maybe come out a winner in any situation. They can overcome any challenge.
Right, overcome 就是克服，所以女性之间的比赛呢，也进一步强调了女性克服挑战的力量。
The Cholita's victory sends a powerful message of justice and respect. Absolutely. And that's something I think a lot of people can really benefit from because in their normal lives, these Cholitas in Bolivia and, other places people might not get the justice and the respect that they should in that country, in that society. Let's talk about this word justice. Justice is basically when the law works the way it should work and the people who were treated badly or had something bad done to them, they get their chance to make things equal. They get their chance to see that that bad person goes to jail or that bad person pays the money for all the trouble that they created. Now, of course, justice can depend if you're on the good side or the bad side. If you did the crime and someone says, you must be punished, you'd say, that's not justice. But for the people who had the crime done to them, the people who are the victims, if the bad guy goes to jail, that is justice. It's when the law basically works fairly and the people who should get help from the law, they do get help from the law, right? We've all seen movies or read stories where the powerful guy does something bad and then he uses his money to get away from justice. And we say, oh, that's not justice. He did something bad, but he didn't pay for it. He didn't suffer for it. That is not justice. So when the law works and the people who should be helped are helped, then we would say, yeah, that was justice. The law worked the way it should work. For example, the victims of the accident tried to get justice in a court of law. They hired the lawyers will tell the story, and hopefully the judge will say that the people who were the victims, who were hurt, they should be helped, and that would be justice.
Justice 就是公平正义的意思 ，to seek justice 就是去追求公平正义。The victim's family sought justice for the crime committed against their loved one。所以呢，这个裘莉塔的胜利啊，就传达了强而有力的正义以及和尊重的讯息。
All right, so having justice and seeing things happen in a fair way in society, this makes people feel encouraged and hopeful. It's like if the Cholitas can do it in the wrestling ring, then maybe we can do it out there in the real world. We believe that we can, or if we thought that we couldn't before, now we're starting to think we can do this. We are feeling very hopeful. In other words, yes, you are full of hope. When you think that good things are going to happen, when you're not too afraid of the bad things, but you really believe the good things will come true, you are very hopeful. You are full of hope. For example, I am hopeful that the weather will be perfect for the wedding tomorrow. I might be praying for it, but I'm having happy, positive thoughts in my brain, not saying, oh, it's going to be terrible. It's going to rain. It'll be ruined. Let's just all go home and cancel it. No. I'm being hopeful, saying, no, we're not going to cancel it. Don't bring your umbrella. It's going to be wonderful. I hope so.
所以 hopeful 就是抱有希望或充满希望的哦。比如说 despite the challenges, she felt hopeful about the future. 就算有困难，她还是觉得这个未来是有希望的。所以正义跟尊重呢，让人们备受鼓励以及充满希望。It's basically looking on the bright side.
Looking on the bright side, exactly.
Yeah,
if you say you're looking on the bright side, you are being hopeful. All right, guys, we have our chat question before we say goodbye. So let's come back and check that out. And the chat question is, in the wrestling matches, the Cholita always wins in the end. Why do you think it's important for the story to end this way?
Because it shows that women's rights are important, right?
They are.
I feel like that.
They are important, and they're sort of to be respected. They're, they're normal. It's normal for women to have their rights, to be treated fairly. And I guess if they showed the Cholita losing in the end, then people would leave it not feeling very hopeful. Right? Everyone loves a happy ending, don't they? Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, that's all the time we have.
所以如果今天主题让你觉得意犹未尽，还可以加入我们的空中家教，与老师同学一起讨论哦。
Bye. Vocabulary Review.
Tease. Some students teased Tommy for wearing glasses, calling him Four Eyes and laughing at him during lunch. Source. Love can be a source of happiness, giving people energy to do nice things for others. Significant. The rain last week was very significant for farmers because their vegetables really needed the water to grow. Violence. Katie doesn't like movies that show a lot of killing because the violence upsets her. Justice. Thomas didn't get paid for his work, so he had to find justice in a court of law. Hopeful. Tom was hopeful that he would get the job because the manager smiled during the interview.
智慧小补帖
Reflect. Overcome.